So the man then, we're told, wants to justify himself. Now, that's worth pausing to think about. Any book, including biblical books, have minor themes running through them as well as their big themes. One of the minor themes in Luke's gospel is about self-justification. Let's back off just a wee bit. Those of us who've been brought up in Christian homes or have been Christians for a while in a church like this one, we know what the doctrine of justification teaches. In the doctrine of justification, we are told that God justifies the ungodly. That is, He declares them to be just. He looks at everything and He declares them to be just, because what He includes in this everything is the death of His own Son. That is, because Christ has borne our sin in His own body on the tree, because our sin has been reckoned to Him, and His righteousness is reckoned to us, therefore God looks at us, even though we are sinners, and He declares us not guilty. In fact, justified. I declare you to be just. In other words, in justification in the Bible, God justifies the ungodly. Fair enough? What's the opposite of that? Well, I suppose you could say the opposite of God justifying the ungodly is that God does not justify the ungodly. Yeah, logically that's true. But on a slightly different axis, the opposite of justification is self-justification. In justification, God justifies us because of what He has done in His Son. In self-justification, we justify ourselves because of what we have done. And now that's the situation in which this man finds himself. And as I've said, it is a theme that keeps showing up in Luke's gospel. At a passage we're going to look at tonight, in Luke chapter 16, we discover this theme of self-justification again. For example, in Luke chapter 16, when Jesus is talking about money, we're told, verse 16, the Pharisees who loved money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts." Do you see? Self-justification. Or again in chapter 18, the account, another parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector, 18:9. To some who were confident of their own righteousness, that is, they were self-justifying, and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. God, I thank you that I go to a Bible-believing church where the truth is preached and we sing good hymns and there are pastors who are godly. I thank you for all of this." And it might actually be thanks, and yet there is an edge of self-justification in it as well, don't you see? But the tax collector stood at a distance. He could not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." Jesus says, "I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God." The other man was self-justified. But only this man, the man who began with his sin, was justified before God.